Royal Geek Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Olson, also known as T-Roll. And tonight I am joined by my very good friends. First of all, we have Justin Sandoval, a.k.a. Sandy. And we also have Anthony Amato, who we like to call Shamato. All right, boys, we are in the same room. We are back to review Severance.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
The penultimate episode of Season 2, episode number 9. You guys fired up or what?
What a ride, huh?
Damn,
what a
yeah.
ride for this season.
Gosh, man, it has been a ride. I think we just need to start by thanking all our listeners, huh?
There you
for
go.
tuning
Yeah.
in. This has been a fun ride for us. We know, I think there's been some new people who've come along and checked out the pod because of this show, and we welcome you and thank you guys for checking us out. So we're really excited to talk about this one. It's the first time we've been back in the room together, all three of us, in like a month, because mostly because of Justin,
Yes.
partially because of me,
All because
partially because of, I mean, really, we're all to blame at some point. But it is mostly Justin's fault, as it normally is.
always, yeah.
But hey, before we get into episode 9, which is called The After Hours,
Yes.
once again, thanks to our listeners, thanks to our fans, our friends, everyone who checks us out. Remind you to please subscribe to the podcast and also share this podcast with your friends. There's a lot of people checking out Severance. So if you got some friends who are watching Severance, send this pod to them, please. But let's do it, boys. Here's a spoiler warning. We're not going to waste any time, all right? Episode 9, penultimate, like we said, it's called The After Hours. A lot of things happen in this episode. Really, almost like every angle was touched on.
yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. It was definitely, they're passing it around pretty frequently. You were getting at the most 4 or 5 minutes with one group at a time, and then they were moving characters. Most of the characters were actually all our MDR guys were actually. I don't know if we get. I don't think we get a single scene. Well, I think we get one scene with 2 macrodata refiners in the same room at the same time.
Yeah, like the
Dylan and Helly, right?
Yeah,
Little
Dylan
kitchenette.
and Helly.
yeah.
But other than that, they're all kind of dispersed through most of the episode, and they kind of gravitate through different moments with them.
Yeah.
Even
yeah.
Milchek is kind of is kind of disconnected from his floor for the most part.
Mm-hmm. It's a good point. So we really literally bounce all around.
Yeah.
So
Perfect for our podcast.
perfect for the podcast. Justin, overall, thoughts on the episode?
Man, I thought it was a solid episode. However, I was just like, I feel like more storylines need to be tied up a little bit more going into the finale, because I think we're still kind of at that unsafe mark of maybe over 10 storylines that we need to get a little bow on.
Yeah.
And makes me a little cautious about landing this
How
plane.
many will get resolved, if any?
Yeah.
I think there's also I think what's sort of looming over my head as well is the fact that it's not just the fact that we may not get stuff resolved, but it's the fact that with how long it took for it to get from season 1 to season 2, are we then going to have to? How long are we going to wait for
2 more years. yeah.
Another 2 years? Is it going to be another 3 years? Who knows? With this show, you just you don't know how long you're going to have to wait, and it seems like it would be honestly, and I know it's been a phenomenal ride so far, but it will feel like a little bit of a letdown, honestly, if they, I'm not saying they have to resolve everything, but they got to give us some stuff resolved to where we feel like this year wasn't just essentially just, I don't want to say filler, but it just felt like there wasn't really any sort of a conclusion. You don't need a definitive conclusion yet, but you need some conclusion.
Yes, correct. Yes, which I'm worried about.
Yeah. I'm not as worried. I'm pretty optimistic. I thought the episode was good. I feel like what shows give you answers until the finales anyways,
I mean, it's still a lot open, man. You gotta at least give you a few.
Okay, well here's one. How about Bert not being a bad guy? You just got an answer right there. Are you happy?
Well, I mean, technically, you got the answer that he was a bad guy.
But then
he isn't currently a
did
bad guy.
good-
Yes,
that's what I'm saying. Don't you feel like you got clarity there?
No.
Okay, so tell me what more you wanted.
I mean,
what was he doing? Like,
what does he do for Lumen? Like,
he said, I drive people places, and then things happen to them.
Yeah,
that's
he never asked questions.
I mean, I guess, I guess.
But I mean, I feel like
I get what you guys are saying. I'm just trying to say, like, I think it's a little, like, yes, there are a lot of question marks, but I think that's what makes this show special. And I think try to go back in time watching season 1. I think all of us watched it to some degree in some sort of binge. I think I watched it. Yeah, I think I watched. Yeah, that's right. It was totally completely out, and I was able to watch it at my own pace. So, like, again, this is just the nature of these types of shows when they're episodic week to week. You got to wait.
You have time to stew on a bunch of stuff. Yeah,
it's kind of cool. It gives opportunity to people like us to do podcasts.
How about
Don't
that?
bite the hand that feeds you. Is all I'm saying, Justin.
All right.
I just think.
I just wish it would feed us. Give us some money.
Well, yeah, we don't get much money around here, but yeah, I think here's my theory. Well, not really theory, but here's my thought on what's going to happen in the finale. Well, I don't know what's going to actually happen, but I think the finale is going to be epic, just like season 1.
Yeah.
Like, remember, go back to the season 1 finale. You couldn't stop thinking about it.
It's true.
Like, holy smokes, right? Something big's going to happen. I really believe that.
That's big, man.
I really do believe it, and that's what I'm holding out hope for. I will admit, if we don't get something big in this finale, then yes, that certainly is problematic. And of course, they're going to leave it on a cliffhanger because they have to.
That's what they do best.
And I'm fine with a cliffhanger, but I feel like they have to feed us something. We have to get some things in this next episode.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're probably right. We're like, the way that we consumed season 1 and the way that we are thinking about it is from the moment of where we're at, specifically. So I do think, you're probably optimistically correct in the sense that, like, we're just seeing it from the potential doom and gloom of what if they don't, but there's always a chance what if they do, so there's that always more positive outlook of
half glass full.
Yeah.
Okay, well, how about this? Let's not go chronological. Let's go character, storyline to storyline.
It's probably for the best.
Yeah.
So where do we want to start? Give me one. Just throw one out and we'll do it.
Irv.
Okay.
Yeah.
Irv and Bert.
Yes.
Okay, so we show up, or at some point in the episode, we see Irv come home.
Yes.
We see Radar, and Radar's just like looking into this room.
Yeah, like, honestly, he needs to, like, give Radar some training because that dog is an awful watchdog.
He's definitely not a watchdog.
Yes.
He's just...
he watched Bert sit there, I'll tell you.
Well,
he certainly did.
Doesn't raise
an alarm. Because he also let, like I brought this up during the episode, he also just lets Drummond just do whatever he wants in that house.
That's
yes.
true, yeah.
Yes. And also, like, something that dawned on me, it's like, maybe Drummond was and Bert were able to do whatever they wanted in Irv's house because Radar wasn't, like, maybe Radar's just so used to them. What if this happens
what if
a
this
lot?
isn't the first time? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they do, like...
What if Drummond walks in there, he plays with Radar for a few minutes before he does work? He gives Radar some treats.
It's possible that, like, Drummond does, like, part of his job is maybe, we don't really have a description on what he is.
It's true. We really don't.
But it's what if his role is essentially the role of he's essentially what the Severance floor manager is, but for the outside world.
Yeah.
Like he essentially manages the Audis without the Audis really know they're being managed.
Like, think of it. He could every day go to Irv's house if he wanted when Irv's at work or back when he was at Lumen still.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got that keychain, man.
The keychain.
He does. Like, he could just do rounds, around to. I mean, the only pitfall in that one would be he would have obviously probably run into Ragabi by now if he was actually doing that to like Mark Scout and stuff like that. But
that's a good point.
But maybe he never really thought there was anything happening with Mark, and he just never went to that house.
Yeah. I mean, they fired Irv, so he had a good
Yes.
reason to go see
Yeah.
what was going on. But anyway, so Irv walks into his home, and we see Bert sitting there reading the notes from the chest that Irv had locked up.
Yes.
Dude, how menacing did Christopher Walken look just sitting in his chair? I was like, there's some bad stuff about to happen right
It
now.
reminds you of, like, honestly, I think sometimes we forget that, especially in his younger roles, he usually played a very, like, menacing character. He's kind of taken on more of, like, a comedic role as he's gotten older and, like, really dug into his comedic, chops a little bit more in his older age. But when he was younger, he used to play very menacing characters.
Oh yeah. I mean, majority of the time growing up, he was a villain in a movie for me. So like 007. Like
007. Oh my gosh, what was the movie where he was the mobster?
Don't ask me, man.
Oh man, I don't know.
I know you should. I know we should both know this, but
not at this hour. But
You're talking about it's still early.
He looks so scary. He
looked scary, and like you said, instantly I was like,
and
oh
like
boy.
how calm he was while being doing. That was
the way he spoke, like he was so calm, cool, collected, but like with an agenda. It was I don't know. It was very creepy.
Very creepy. And then he's reading the notes that Irv had somehow taken down about Bert, and more suspicions that he had about him. He couldn't have known anything. But Bert was reading those notes, and Bert was like offended, and he said, "Come take a ride with me." Said it like twice, and it's like that's never a good.
Yeah,
it's never a good line.
Never.
And then later in the episode, it cuts back to this kind of storyline. Bert's driving, Irv's in the passenger seat, and we watched this together. So, peel the curtain back a little bit for our fans. We actually got to watch this episode together tonight, which is cool. So this is a fresh reaction. So if you're wondering, like, why do they sound so tired? Well, it's because it's late and we watched this together, okay? But here's the thing. Here's what's crazy. We're watching it, right? And instantly I paused it.
You did, yeah.
And I said, guys, when I saw Radar in the back seat, I was like, if they do something to this dog,
yep.
I don't know if I'll be able to do the podcast. I was so nervous when I saw Radar in the back seat.
Yeah.
So nervous.
Yeah. It definitely looked like something potentially sinister was about to happen.
Absolutely. Now,
it turned into a nice thing, though.
Well, here's the thing. When they're driving, Bert said, I never hurt anybody. He said, I drove people places, but I never asked questions about what happened to them after that.
Yeah.
And then Irv said, is that what's happening today?
Yeah, which is such a, like, oh, that's a great,
yeah.
Like, although, honestly, that's kind of is what's happening.
He doesn't know what's going to happen.
He doesn't. Like, it's essentially the same.
He's not going to ask questions.
Yes.
What stop you getting off? He's not asking.
Yeah.
So he just buys a ticket for Irv to the farthest direction that he could go.
Yes.
He tells him, get off somewhere.
Yep.
You can't tell me where. And you can never come back to Kier.
Yes. Yeah.
Man.
Which, at the very least, I mean, I know it may seem a little ridiculous, but it confirms the fact that there is more to this world than Kier.
Right.
Like, like, I know we should conceptualize that there is more than that, but we really haven't, like, honestly had physical evidence in any way that there actually is something out. Like, I know they've said, we have things all over the world.
Right.
But, like, though all of that was, like, propaganda inside of Lumen.
That's
a
good point.
Like, to the point to where, like, it's almost like how much of the
right.
And they've shown that they're very willing to just straight up lie.
It's a good point, man. On the outside, the only thing I can think of is that one guy who said he had a lease in Grand Rapids.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
And then seeing what looked like American currency in the Chinese restaurant.
Yeah.
When Mark was eating.
Oh,
I mean, but once again, like,
that's really all I could think of about.
Well, but the thing is, we don't know, like, Kier is, like, whatever the state it supposedly is. Like, is that how far that encompasses? Is that
I
kind of like
agree.
my idea?
No, I am with you. I'm just saying, like, That's my point. I'm saying
Yeah.
that's the most we've gotten.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten a literal map
Yeah.
of anything.
Yeah, like other than like them essentially showing them the map of their locations, but of course, once again, that could always be a lie. And who knows if Grand Rapids is, for all we know, Grand Rapids is in Kier. You know, like we don't know how encompassing
Maybe
that location is. For all we know, the Italian guy, I mean, Italy's in Kier. Like we don't really know. Like any of that.
Now we're stretching a little bit here, huh? We're stretching a little bit here, Amato. But anyways, Bert shows compassion. He is letting Irv live. What do you guys think was really happening in this? Like, what's going on here?
I mean, I feel like it was a internal battle with Bert. Really, like he's probably was tasked to do something with Irv, and his. I mean, even though maybe he was fully aware of his Indian relationship in there. I don't know. At this point, I'm like, it's up in the air for me. But what if, even if he knew or didn't know, there were feelings there for Irv, and he just made a last second decision to just drop him off and not know where he's going to go. So I feel like it was definitely a struggle. Even though, I mean, he kind of was like hesitant a little bit. I mean.
Who?
Bert? Yeah, Bert a little bit. I don't know. I feel like he was like, okay, here you go. The moment where they pause and they're like at each other's foreheads. Like I feel like that was like Bert was like, don't go, but I need you to go. That kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I took that more as Irv was trying to stay, and Bert was like, no, like you have to get. He literally said, we can't.
Yeah, but the pause there and doing it over and over again. That's like that's a sign like in your mind, in your body,
Sure.
like a reflex of like, okay, I'm gonna stay here as long as I should be, longer than I should be. And
so wait, what part was you said a split second decision or a last second decision?
Well, maybe I'm saying maybe this was like he was. What if he was actually supposed to drive Irv somewhere to pass him off to somebody else, but he made the decision that he was going to take him instead to the train station.
Sure, I just think I don't know if that was last. I bet he made that decision when he was in his house. Okay. Yeah, but
but like just the change of plans, I think.
Yes,
kind of Justin's getting at there. But yeah, and I think
agree with that.
And I think in a way it was like Bert was essentially like feeling he would have betrayed the last bit of innocence inside himself if he had, done what if he was doing what Lumen wanted in that moment. Like if there was somewhere else he was supposed to drive him, because obviously his innocence and his like soul are important to him.
Yeah,
to the point to where he got severed almost specifically because of that.
That's true. Yeah, that's
right. And I think he feels like
we think it's true.
Well, yes. However, you feel about that or whatever it may be, in the separation. But like I think he, a little bit of himself and his innocence, even maybe as an Audi, was kind of like, believing that he still had some innocence still left in him, because he seemed pretty forlorn about his general, what would happen to him if he were to ever, if he dies, And I think in a moment he's kind of hanging on to that innocence a little bit in himself and hoping there's a little bit in there. And also, like I said, I think he kind of felt like he would be betraying the innocence of his innie.
Yeah. So a few episodes ago when they had the dinner, it seemed pretty obvious that Drummond was there because Bert was helping to get Irv out of his house, right? It seems obvious at this point.
Yeah.
So much so that the notes that Drummond found, that's what Bert is reading.
Yes.
So I think it's got to be that they sent him either to make the hit or to take him somewhere where they're going to cross Irv off.
Yeah.
And just like you said, Justin, I think instead he chose to love Irv, show some compassion, and it ended up being a really sweet moment where he literally saves his life, and thankfully Radar's life.
Yeah.
That's what I was most worried about.
That is true. Yeah.
So quick buy or sell, because this is the penultimate episode. All right, you ready?
Yeah. Here we go.
Here we go. Buy or sell. Irv will return to Kier at some point, maybe season 3, but at some point.
I'm gonna buy it.
I'm buying that as well. Yeah,
like the the hero's return essentially is we're gonna have having like
it'll be in the next episode.
It'll be like maybe or just there'll be like a Deus Ex Machina moment
Macro
where like
dad.
everyone is like everyone is like on the verge of collapse, and like he shows up to save them or something.
Macro
like that.
dat refiners assemble.
Yeah,
there you go.
Something like that.
That's exactly it.
Well, thankfully, it looks like Irv, although he left all of his possessions at home, his life has been spared. It seems like. So we'll see what comes there.
For the most part, yeah.
For the most part. All right, next storyline. How about we talk about Gretchen and Dylan?
Okay,
Yes,
Both Dylans.
Yeah.
Were you guys surprised to see Gretchen come clean?
I mean, I was, because she made a huge effort to completely ignore it the last time they had the conversation.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, she's bringing this up now. But I also feel like it was a little strategic as well. Like, I feel like, here's why. Ready?
Dude, so see, I was about to say, because I feel like both of y'all, but maybe more so at least Justin, you guys have not been big fans of Gretchen.
I mean, kind of, maybe. I don't know. But
I don't know, man. I feel like
no, not really. No.
Yeah, you guys have been theorizing like
There's something off with her. But
Yeah, okay.
but this is not with her necessarily being like involved. But I mean, technically she is, because she's a part of the police force, aka like dispatcher 911 that work for Lumen. But anyway, here's my thing. Okay, I feel like she intentionally told Audi Dylan so that she could start to sabotage their relationship so she can be with any Dylan. That's what I feel like. It's like she poured gasoline on something that was crumbling before because their relationship started to fade, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole reason why she's even said in this episode, she said, he reminds me of a younger you, like when you had ambition, like that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so I feel like she did that on purpose to implode that marriage so that she can find a way to be in a relationship with any Dylan, which I don't know how that's going to work out. Maybe she knows something we don't know.
I mean,
okay,
well, okay. So the only thing I would push back on that is
big pushback.
he literally proposes to her in this episode.
Yeah, no, I get
She
that.
walks away.
I get that, but I think that she walks away because she realizes that maybe this is not exactly what she wanted. But I think that's why she did it in the first place.
Maybe she's trying to get out of both, like in a way, like
Interesting.
Could it just be that her she felt some guilt and wanted to come clean to her husband? Y'all are just, bro, what's going on here?
I mean, I do think it's more like I think she more likely told him just because of something more like what T-Roll's getting at, is that it was the moral part of it / I don't think I think she is just just kind of, she's lost, I think, at the moment. Like, I think they're both kind of the Audi versions of both of them. I think Gretchen is kind of lost. I think Dylan is for sure lost as an Audi. I feel like he's kind of meandering about. He's lost all purpose,
going through the motions of his day-to-day life.
They're both in this relationship that is just kind of happening. It's not really like moving forward at all. There's no anything, like, I don't feel like there's any true like love in their marriage at the moment, and it is I think right now they're kind of just sitting there, like there's nothing positive going on in their relationship. I do think she felt kind of regret for kind of what happened. I think initially she wasn't sure if she was ready to tell her Audi when I think that's why she lied, not necessarily out of malice, but out of she wasn't ready to tell him yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
I think so. I mean, she was, but like we've joked about like her cheating on her husband with her husband,
right?
Yeah. and like Dylan literally says that.
He
in a perfect like Dylan way that we can't share it on this podcast, with F words and things like that. But
using my body to cheat on me.
So, I don't think there's really anything sinister about Gretchen. Like, I don't think she has some sort of crazy plan or motives. I think she's just, that's the man she loves, and the innie version of him is the closer to the man that she fell in love with.
Yeah.
So that's why she was drawn to him, but she feels guilt over that, so she told the truth.
Yeah, because she's had she's had the experiences of, their entire life is attached to the Audi.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Who hurt you, Justin? Why you just coming in guns blazing on Gretchen, bro?
I don't know, man. Something about her I just don't trust.
Watch, it's gonna turn out that Gretchen's like the ultimate villain of the show somehow.
You heard it here first, folks.
She literally caused the accident for Gemma.
Oh God!
Dang. Okay.
All right, so Dylan ends up, any Dylan, he proposed, Gretchen then breaks his heart.
Yeah.
So she's hurting both Dylans right now.
She's got an agenda, man.
Yeah.
Well, maybe. But Dylan on the inside, he's crushed.
Yes.
And Helly's
and
actually
he takes it out on Helly.
Helly's like consoling him, trying to help him. And man, Helly just keeps getting.
She's just a punching bag this entire episode.
Yes.
It was rough this episode.
Like
for her.
everyone is just pounding on her. I mean, she's a beast in this episode, but like she's just getting hit left and right by everybody.
Yeah.
And started off from the jump too with their dad. Like,
Yeah.
this was the breakfast weird scene.
Well, let's finish with Dylan first.
Yeah.
Okay, so she tries to console Dylan. Dylan's a total jerk to her. Got some other words I could say, but we won't. And then he goes to Milchick's office to do his official resignation.
Yes.
Which, the way it works, like you do that, and then ultimately it's up to your Audi.
Right.
Yes.
If you're actually going to resign.
Which it seems like his Audi at the moment probably be cool with it.
So buy or sell.
There you go.
Did any Dylan, essentially just successfully end his own life? Buy or sell?
Ooh. So you said successfully.
Yeah, okay, what I mean is, sorry, this is a stupid way of asking.
Will we ever see Dylan again?
Yeah, I guess so. Or even how about not that? Actually, here's what I want to ask: does Audi Dylan officially resign?
Ooh.
Buy or sell?
I sell.
Yeah, I'm going to sell that. I just don't think you can eliminate that character like that. I just don't know how that would specifically work.
I would not be surprised if they eliminated him, but I feel like Audi Dylan is still, just from what we've seen so far. Yes, this episode he says, "Well, I'll just quit" or whatever, just because he thinks the cheating thing. But he feels more accomplished the fact that he has a job. Like what we see in the outside Dylan.
True.
He's job hopping.
Yeah.
This is the only thing he's good at. That kind of thing, right? So I feel like he would stick with it because of that.
What if he's initially okay with it, but then he finds out about reintegration and he sees it as an opportunity to recapture that part of himself that Gretchen loves.
That's cool.
And to feel that way again, to be that version, because she brings that up to Audi Dylan in this episode, is like he's like you were before.
Yeah.
And so he sees reintegration as a way to essentially win his wife back in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because if he does resign, which you would understand why he might, based on how hurt he was with Gretchen.
Yeah.
Here's my thing. So Irv, Helly, and Mark, their Audis all have some sort of storyline connection that's obvious to us as an audience, to Lumen, and to what's going on.
But Dylan
doesn't. Unless, the couple times they've talked about Seth.
Yes.
Unless we find out, one of the things we find out in the finale is Seth's like a cousin, a friend, a neighbor. You know what I'm saying? But
maybe.
So that's why I would say he probably won't resign, or maybe he'll take a leave of absence or something, a week off, But here's my big thing about any Dylan, okay? Yes, your heart's broken. However, and Helly makes his point, don't forget about the freaking note that your friend left before he died.
That he literally, the last thing that he told you was where it was.
Yes.
Like, that's how important that, he thought that was, that the very last thing that he told you was where that location was, when he knew he was going. Like, it wasn't like he told you and then he got surprised, like, eliminated. It was literally, he was literally, like, at the gallows.
Yeah.
And he was about to drop, and his last words were, hang in there.
So, what does that say about Dylan?
I think at this moment he's just kind of like blinded by the idea of potentially love, and like the idea that not only, I think it's accelerated in his mind because of the fact that he's like, I've already won this person on the outside, so like she seems more accessible for me to get there, and he's never had anyone. I mean, honestly, it's very likely Dylan G's never been kissed. Like,
I mean, yeah,
like
technically,
right.
It would make way more sense for him to have never been kissed.
Yeah.
So, like, the idea of like that's the most intimate thing that a person could have at this moment in his mind. I mean, he's talked about other things about what he would do with certain women, the connections he's had with, like what he thought he had with like Gemma and stuff like that. But this was like an actual physical, representation that he's never had before. So it's almost like the idea of, we kind of got to think about it almost like the first person when you're in like middle school or high school, you have that girl, that first one that you kind of like
first kiss, yeah,
like that first kiss, that first one you kind of fall for, and people might tell you, your parents might tell you that there's always going to be someone next. Like there's like, I don't know why, there'll be someone else, but you can't.
You're just blind to it. You can't see anything.
You can't see because it does. You don't have anything to base it off of from before.
Yeah. I guess so.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it's just crazy to me that Dylan could go through something so sad and heartbreaking and still not come around to say, all right, well, I'm going to give my life to something else.
Yeah.
Instead, I'm going to give my life up.
Essentially. And then also just like him burning Helly in this, like he cuts her hard.
Yeah, he does.
Like, and it is like he has some sharp words for her when they're at that, when they're having their conversation where she's trying to console him, and he's like basically
it's all your
saying,
fault. Like
he's like, yeah, it's your fault. Like, although it's an interesting like line that that kind of rolls through the entire episode, is the idea of fault versus no fault. Like, whose fault is it and what is going on? It kind of runs through just about every storyline, from the Bert Irv storyline to like all of them kind of like deal with that idea of fault and who's
Drummond and Milchick. Whose fault is it that Mark's not here?
Yeah, right? Drummond and Milchick. All that kind of stuff leads to that, and like just the way that he calls her out, and like he's like, oh yeah, like, well, but Irv knew that I didn't, and then he just jobs back, well, Mark didn't, and it's well, it's just,
it's crazy. And last thing about Dylan, he was also very. With Milchick, he was very just disrespectful.
Oh yeah.
You feel for Milchick in this episode, like no one's respecting him.
Yeah. Yeah, like he's just like although I'm not gonna lie, when he's in there, he does use he uses a phrase that's a little bit like, I feel like is a little uncaring when he's leaving. And he's like he doesn't use the word unapologetic. He uses like grateful. I think he uses ungrateful.
Yeah.
About like when he's trying to resign. I feel like that was a little bit too far. I think that's the part that kind of like drove Dylan over. He's like ungrateful, like, and I'm sure in Dylan's head,
I think he said like something like lack of gratitude. Or something
like probably something along those lines. But anyway, like the fact that he's like that Dylan just sees that as like ridiculous. I think in that moment,
he's clearly talking about the incentive of being able to see Gretchen.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Which is ultimately the source of Dylan's deepest pain right now.
Yeah.
So it's just funny how
and the fact that it was kind of funny how he literally like checked every single box they had for the reasons.
That was funny. That's what I'm saying. There's little things like that in the show that really are funny. You know what I'm saying?
But yeah, I think would you say that wraps up probably the Dylan G side of it?
All good with Dylan. I'm good with Dylan G.
So
how about we mentioned Milchick? Let's talk a little
do you want to throw together? I think we do like Milchick and Huang kind of together.
Yeah.
Like their two storylines because they're kind of together for a good.
Let's start with Miss Huang. So Milchick's basically telling her time here's done.
Yes.
Finish out your duties today.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it seemed like she was under the assumption that she would stay through the quarter.
Yes.
So Milchick is just like pushing her out the door.
Yeah, he's
tired of being chopped down behind his back.
Yeah, I mean, because she's very like passive aggressive towards him and undercutting him, and she's obviously feeding information to the higher ups, about him and about his performance and things like that. It's pretty obvious that she is constantly undercutting him.
Yeah, totally obvious.
I
caught that.
Well,
I mean, obviously the large words was 100% coming from her.
Yeah, that part, sure, right.
Yeah, and I do think that Milchek took advantage of this situation to kind of get one over on her again as well. Like he kind of reveled in the fact that he was able to tell her, "No, you can't finish the quarter. You only finished the day." And then when he's like making her sacrifice her game, he was like, "Again." Like he's just like,
yeah.
It's just he was really in the moment and getting back at her. I feel like.
Yeah, I think he was there. I think the whole fact that he made it like so immediate and abrupt, her leaving. I think it was specifically as a way to like it was a way of showing power. Once again, just like having the power to like slam having her destroy like her favorite thing.
Yep.
It was also a power move to saying I control when and where you move.
Yeah.
Like, like you thought it was the quarter. No, it's today.
Isn't that crazy? Now, I will admit, this is the kind of thing where it's like, with this show, where it's like, okay, I'd love to know I'd love to have some answers on even that. Like we got a little bit of this with the last episode with Cobell's story.
Yeah.
Like when he said, your bed will be moved from your parents' home to another place. I was like, what?
Yeah.
What? You can decide that?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? But if you think about it, that's what happened with Cobell.
Yeah. She's being moved into some other program for like, refining or whatever.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So anyways, Milchick, power move with Miss Wong. But then Milchick, for the rest of this episode, with Helly, completely destroyed by Helly.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. She hit. She
was feisty,
hard. Yeah, some of her best work was against Milchek in this episode. Yeah, she hits him hard, and he takes a lot of junk in this episode. Like he takes a.
He really does, which ends up boiling over with Drummond, which we will get to.
Ooh,
yes.
Yeah.
But
Helly, he calls her Helly R, and then she's like, "Don't you mean Helly E?"
Yeah, and of course he snaps back pretty good. He's like,
"Yeah,
no, Helly R." Or he's like, Helena Egan is my superior.
Yeah, my employer.
But you are Helly R. Yeah. You are my subordinate.
And when she leaves, he's like, leave the door open. She just slams it.
Yes.
I mean,
he didn't even finish his statement.
Finish the statement.
Which is interesting because what I also love about that is it's almost in a way in a callback to Cobell, because there was a very specific scene in season 1 where Cobell essentially does the same thing, leave the door open, and with Mark is very tentative and very like almost standoffish in that moment, and it's because of the fact of he has so much like respect and fear of her as the manager, I think, in those moments. Yeah. Whereas this is kind of showing the exact opposite. They don't have respect for him. They don't have any fear of Milchek.
Yep.
So like she just slams the door.
Completely slams the door. And then again, Dylan, we talked about Dylan being in his office. And then finally this all boils over with Milchek when Drummond is calling him. So a little bit of the main storyline here. This is supposed to be a big day for Lumen.
Yes.
This is the day of the quota.
Yes.
Cold Harbor completion.
That's right. So James, he's showing up because it's a big day. And,
yeah.
And basically, Mark's not there. So because of that, Drummond's like talking to Milchek like, where is he? You need to call him. You need to get him here. And dude, this scene with Milchek and Drummond, when Drummond is being a complete a-hole to Milchek to like tell him to use different words. And he's trying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Milchek's trying. He's trying to keep in line. He's trying to be a good employee, right? But then he finally just snaps.
Yeah.
And I don't know I can't remember the phrase, but
Yeah, but eat
told him
crap.
Yeah, exactly. So he didn't say crap.
No.
And wow. This was amazing. What you guys think of this?
Well, yeah, this was 100%.
This was a moment, man.
100% a flex by Milchek because of two things. One, he was able to diss this guy by using his words that he normally he said them in ways that were big and hard to understand
and slow with the syllables.
And then he went back in with a dumb down. So he was
means eat. Ish.
Yeah, exactly, but he took the performance guide notes and used them in the moment against Drummond, which was fantastic,
incredible.
And then like the second thing that I feel like Milchick was able to accomplish here is kind of like
establish boundaries is what he did.
Not only just establish boundaries, but like if you think about the transition from season 1 to season 2, Milchick, like season 1, I feel like Milchick was like praised more because he was getting things done, like and Cobell was viewed as the person who was a screw up, and then now in season 2, it feels like whoever in that position that who leads the severed floor, like they're the one who's getting all the crap and is a screw up, and I feel like it was Milchick just kind of being like, no, I'm not the screw up here. Like it's this whole organization or like it's this whole
you guys
situation.
Are too much, you know?
There's too many hands in the pot, and it was kind of him like taking control back a little bit.
Yeah, and understanding that like you can't micromanage every moment of this, situation. Essentially,
so much so that when Mark actually calls Milchick, and he's like, "I just need a day, okay?" Milchick has this moment, this long pause where he's on the phone, and Mark's even like, "Mr. Milchick, are you there?" And he's like looking at that glacier, and he just says, "Will you give me your word you'll be here tomorrow?" Like it really felt actually like genuine and sincere from Milchick, because again, he is in the camp of treating these people, like humans, right?
Right.
Drummond, Miss Wong, everyone else is like at Lumen is like they're not humans, right? So like. He has always wanted to go about this in a different way. And I think even in that moment, he was like, when Mark made that request, he's like, James Egan is here today. Today is the quota day. Mark needs to be here today. But yeah, you can take a day off.
Well, and I think like in that moment, I think the iceberg poster is kind of like this idea of, and what you were saying, Phil's very much into this, is like, is there more to him than the tip of the iceberg? To Milchick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like something there, man.
Is he going to do something to the point to where like there's just the tip? He's going to force Mark to come in. He's going to be that person. He's not going to be, any deeper of a person. And I think in that moment of like allowing, basically saying, take the day, but please promise me that you'll be back tomorrow. And I think that was kind of him saying that, there's something more here to me.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about Helena and Helly and her daddy.
Yes.
All right, so breakfast.
Weird encounter.
Which I did. So one of my favorite parts about it was the fact that when she cuts the egg and it drops and it's in 2 parts. Like, so I think it was a very interesting visual representation
of Severance.
Of the Severance. And so I do think that was an important thing to show that what she was doing is that there is like these 2 parts of her
and
that are trying to exist.
And 6, which is how many rooms Gemma's in. How many different Gemmas there are.
Yeah.
And 6 for the Egans before James. So there you go.
And 6 for Satan, which maybe that's Egan. I don't know.
I mean, who knows? It's not out of the realm of possibility.
So breakfast, the hard-boiled egg, and dude, I love this. So at first, James excited. It's a momentous day. You think, hey, he's going to celebrate this exciting day with his daughter, who he loves, right? Looks like they're going to have a nice breakfast. She says, will you eat? He's like, I'll just watch.
Yeah.
Which is so
really weird line.
Such a weird
Followed
line.
up shortly after, I wish you would eat it raw.
That's my point.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting to. It's like even eating her simple egg for breakfast
is not good enough for him.
It's not good enough for him. And that's where it's like, let's shout out my mother-in-law. I know she's listening to these episodes now. I was talking to her about this show, and she mentioned how she doesn't like Helena, which I get it. Helena's she's done a couple bad things in this show.
Oh yeah.
But here's what's so good about this show: they can make you feel for almost anybody.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't really felt for like maybe Drummond yet, but you can literally feel for almost anybody, including Helena, where it's like even her, you're like, this is the way. This is why she is who she is.
Yeah, like it's very obvious that there is something inside her that is broken, and that she is trying to, grab out into the world about.
Exactly. It's like she's gonna combust at some point. Like this whole thing might blow up because of her.
Yeah,
it's possible.
Maybe.
Well, side note here, he makes the line that I wish you would eat it raw, and she does not. Well, raw eggs are something you're supposed to avoid when you are pregnant. So this could feed into the she's pregnant theory.
which is very popular.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, maybe
We'll see.
we'll see.
I don't know. I'm just throwing
We'll
it
see.
out there. Just throwing it out there. And I guess while we're on the topic of like themes and stuff like that, real quick, technically the entire episode involved everybody dealing with like broken love. Like if you really break down the entire episode, like Dylan,
Yep.
him and his wife, Helly, her and her dad, and then Bert and Irv, even Milchek, the fact that like he was a beloved employee and now he's being crapped on, that whole is a thing.
Yep.
So I don't know.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it's all about like fault and not fault. Like it runs through all their storylines too. Like whose fault? Like dealing with that kind of stuff. Like where it lies is another through line that happens through all those storylines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of storylines, I think there's only one big one left, right?
Yeah.
Which is
Well, actually, sorry, we're not done with Helena. Sorry. So that was Helena and James, but then
Helly. Yeah.
end of the episode, we get a crazy moment
Yeah.
with Helly and James.
James.
That was kind of like a eye-open jaw drop.
So she literally says, "What the f?"
Yep.
Yeah.
So here's my question, guys. What the f? So he just shows up on the severed floor.
Yeah.
Clearly, he's not severed. Am I right?
Clearly.
And he's just disappointed in her. But like, she doesn't know. Like, she knows who he is because of the perpetuity wing.
Yeah.
She doesn't have a relationship with this guy.
No, not at all.
So what the heck is he
So,
doing?
like, the fact that he's disappointed means should be nothing to her. Like, because she's like, I don't know who you are, that kind of thing. But, like, for him, like, what's his thought process here? Like, it makes no sense because he's basically encountering somebody who would have no idea what or why he's talking to her. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
At all. Except to throw her for a loop, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, maybe he's just disappointed in the fact that they weren't able to complete Cold Harbor
I think
that
that's
day.
got to be it. I think when you're so angry about things, you just do things that don't make sense.
Yeah.
And that's probably it.
And like he's literally going to the room where they were supposed to complete Cold Harbor.
Like,
Okay.
like
that could be it.
like like a bad parent. Well, yeah, parents sometimes they get mad, and when they get mad, they take it out on their children, and their children didn't do anything wrong. They just sadly do.
Yeah.
That's literally what's happening here. He's upset because Cold Harbor didn't get completed today. That's where his daughter is.
Yeah.
Like,
and he made it a choice to be there in person to watch
Yeah.
it happen, and it didn't happen.
drove in that day with her.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Or rode in that day with
Yeah.
her. So it's like, but it was just still like, logically, it's like, okay, for this brilliant man, it's like you're talking to a different person.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, maybe it has to do with like, I don't know. Maybe he feels like he can take out his frustration on her without taking his frustration out.
That's
with
another
Helena.
maintain a relationship, but
Not even just but just like he can
because
really just-
Helena's not gonna get mad at him, like because she doesn't know,
Yeah.
so he can literally say whatever he wants to her without repercussion of a broken.
That's why I'm
relationship.
like, what happens next?
Yeah.
She says, "What the f?" and I'm like, that is after hours.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, maybe somebody's watching on a camera, but can't Helly go kind of berserk right now?
I mean, it seems like it because I feel like they're unsupervised right now.
What if Helly just assaults him? He's old and frail, dude.
Yeah.
Kills
Well,
her
it'd be
dad.
interesting. Like,
Yes.
how, like,
Yeah.
okay, so like,
That's
how
crazy.
does she view her relationship with him? Like, does she still see, because she knows who she is on the outside, but she has no, like, in her own mind, she has no relationship with him. But does she still like understand the idea of this is my father? Like where does that fall in the relationship factor?
She's got to, but what she probably doesn't know is, like, she probably thinks, Helly is probably thinking, this is Helena's beloved father. But,
It's possible.
but like, if she, like, what if Helly and Helena somehow, this is their way of finding out that they have some common ground, that they both hate James?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Or what if
Be kind of cool.
what would
Common
be
ground outside
what
of
would be
having sex with
interesting
Mark.
is like what if like through this, he ends up like building a positive relationship with Helly, but he has a terrible relationship
Or
with
that.
Helena.
Or that.
That would be an interesting like.
That's a dynamic.
Or that.
The idea of
Yeah.
you know, like all of a sudden, like Helena looks back maybe on the tapes and he sees like
They're like hugging.
like they're hugging, or like he
Ooh.
sees him like laugh at something that she says, or like just something simple.
She
like
would go
that.
crazy.
Oh
Like,
my
it would be-
gosh.
That would be phenomenal.
You
like,
just went the complete opposite direction of my
yes.
theory I just had.
Yeah.
I mean, 100% did. But that's all we're doing right now.
That's
It's
right.
series.
That's what this show is, because
Yeah.
they don't give us any answers. We got to make up our own, right?
Yep.
Okay, so moving on from Helly, moving on from Helena. Here it is.
Yeah.
The big one. The last, I think, storyline to talk
Yep.
about. Mark.
Yes.
Yeah.
Devin, and of course, Harmony Cobell.
Yes.
So, guys, where do we even start?
Dude.
I guess the drive.
Yeah, I guess the drive, yeah. The fact that they actually met her in the woods, right? And
Yeah.
And she didn't immediately give them up is
Correct.
important.
yeah.
She
Is.
refers to herself as an ally.
She
now,
does.
Now there is always a possibility that she's, playing something else
Yeah, I'll talk.
at this moment, but she at the very least verbally states that she is an ally in this moment. And it is interesting because she specifically wants Mark to make himself as non-noticeable at work as possible, because she does understand that there's a possibility that at some point he could end up like essentially being boxed out or iced out.
Yeah.
Which I'm not sure how much. That seems a little like iffy to me because I think she understands how important he is. So like, I don't think there's any way they would ever box.
Yeah,
him
that's a
out.
good point. I wonder, at the same yeah, I don't know what kind of like absolute doomsday failsafe they might have with this particular situation
Yeah.
with Mark and Gemma.
Well, yeah, because like I mean, honestly, like okay, so they're going through Cold Harbor. Like even if there wasn't anything crazy happening with Mark, like what if he just got hit by a bus on the way to work, like the last day before Cold Harbor?
Yeah,
Like, would they be able to complete it, or what would happen? Like nothing in a sinister way, but like
Yeah,
you
just
have to have.
practically you're asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Well, I mean, you'd like to think that Dylan would be able to complete 4%, right? Like,
Apparently not, dude. Like
I
they're
know,
just
right?
roaming through the hallways. It's almost like, well, Mark's not here, so
we'll just do whatever we
yeah,
want.
do whatever you guys do whatever you
Feel
want.
free. We're not gonna monitor you guys. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what it feels like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but it almost feels like Mark is the only one working on Cold Harbor in a way.
yeah.
Yeah. Really.
Like-
I mean, yeah, it does. Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to remember back. Like, what are are the files? Like, is everyone else working on Cold Harbor, or are they working on?
I don't think they're work. I
Like, is he the only one working on Cold Harbor?
think he is.
Yeah. Like, I think the others are working
Could be
on
wrong.
other named projects and
Yeah.
files.
Like Allentown.
Yeah.
And Zurich or whatever. But
Yeah.
anyways, okay. So speaking of Cold Harbor, Cobell does. I don't know if she. I don't want to say she let it slip, but we get informed, and not that it's a surprise to us, but to Mark. Like, have you completed the file? And he's like, what file? He's like so angry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, Cold Harbor. And of course he doesn't know what that
Yeah.
means. And she's like, well, if you have, then she's already dead.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, what? Yeah. Like, and he loses it.
Yeah, which makes him lose it, of course. And I think it is like I think at that moment, Mark is just like, why would I even remotely care about a file? Like I think that's literally just all that's about. He's like, why does this mean anything?
Yeah.
to
With
him?
like everything that's going on, he's just like, what are you asking me about this for? Like,
Like,
this,
why are you asking me about work? Like,
Yeah.
why do I care about what's happening at work?
So I guess something that is, in my mind, confirmed. So either we don't understand whatever the heck reintegration is, or he's not actually reintegrated yet.
I mean, I feel like he's still struggling with being integrated. I think so. I don't know if he's there yet.
Yeah, I think reintegration, correct me if I'm wrong, is where both like conscious, like you can have both memories at once.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what we suspect,
That's
right?
what I mean. The little line graph that they showed of the wavelengths syncing up made me believe that.
yeah.
Okay,
That's
right.
the way it seemed, and I think at the moment he's having small glimpses where there's crossover, but he isn't quite there
It's not
yet.
clear.
Yeah.
Because otherwise he would know, oh, yeah, Cold Harbor. Like he'd be able
Yeah.
to, Yeah, but
he would be aware of that. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Otherwise, they don't have to go to the freaking birthing retreat.
Yeah.
To talk to any Mark S.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But they have to go there.
Which, I mean, not gonna lie, I love the fact that they had that. Like, just the idea of it, like this whole idea, because you're the whole time you're like, oh, talk to any Mark, you would either have to do the OTC or, go to Lumen, and you kind of they kind of push to the back of your mind the idea of
the retreat.
The retreat.
Well, they never made it clear that it's spatial there, except for in this past episode when Devin mentioned it, or 2 episodes ago. Like, you understand eventually that, oh yeah, that senator's wife was there, but Mark S. was there at a different cabin too, just a different cabin. Remember, like, they were all there together.
True.
At that same retreat.
That's a good point. Yep.
So it's like it had to be a specific cabin, apparently.
I mean, yeah, it must be like walking into like a four-walled area. Like, I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
Just like the severed floor, it's spatial.
Yeah, that's a question that we didn't get answered to. So
I mean, when he did wake, it was right at the doorway. So like, it makes it seem like when you
crossing a barrier.
Yeah, crossing the barrier
cabin,
once again. Like going into that house severs someone.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but like that, you were talking about how it's like in the back of our minds, like we kind of forgot about it, I think is what you're saying, Shamato. It's like they kind of kept that veiled the whole time until recently Devin mentioned it, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess that lady was severed there. But I thought that senator's wife in season 1 was manually severed, or like via an OTC switch or something. Not that it was spatial.
Gotcha.
But it's clearly spatial. They had to get
yes,
there.
It is. Yeah.
So anyways, they get there, and man, cool shot. Like, Mark's freaking out because he sees Devin again. Last time he saw her, he didn't know who she was, but he found out they're siblings.
Yeah. I do want to back up for just a second when she's talking to the guard.
Oh, this was
moment,
cool.
like I think one of the most important underlying lines might be the fact that where they state she's one of James.
One of James.
So what does that mean in this moment?
We know what that means. James gets around.
Yes.
Ooh.
How many more of his children are there?
He have?
Like, how many concubines does he have? Could they be, jockeying for position to overthrow Helena? Maybe that's why she feels so
she's
isolated, and how she has to feel like she has to be perfect because she is, maybe who knows? Maybe she's actually from James' wife, and the rest are kind of secondary, but they always have that possibility. Maybe she is from one of these concubines, and so she doesn't have as much of a connection, in this moment. What's their relationship?
To your point, the way that Cobell said it to the guard made it clear, this happens.
Yes.
Enough.
To be aware of.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is pretty wild.
Look the other way.
And for the fact of them to not, for her to not see her face and be like, but that's not his wife, or that's not one of the to where there's a bunch of them.
Yes. And she used we don't know what, but there was some coded messaging between Cobell and that guard.
For sure.
A golden thimble and something else, right? Cobell just knows how to get around.
Yeah.
She basically was where Huang was when you have to know everything as far as the whatever the heck they use, their guidelines, their rules, their policies, the book. She knows it all.
She knows it all.
Yeah.
So she's able to get them in. And then Mark S is, woken up, whatever you call it, right? Mark S comes to. His last memory would be leaving with a bloody nose a couple days earlier.
Yeah.
But then he sees Devin, who he met, in our season finale of season 1.
Yes.
Found out they were siblings. Probably remembers, oh yeah, that's my Audie's sister. But why is she here? Why am I here? Where am I?
Yeah. I do kind of wish she had been a little more verbally reassuring. I've been in that moment. Do you remember who I am? Like that kind of thing. You're safe. That kind of stuff. She didn't use any
everything's good
affirming language, or at least not as much as I would have like to have heard.
Take a breather. We're about to see your hated boss.
I did want to throw out this idea before I forgot. What if like all the winter tides are female, and that's just all his concubines?
Oh, gosh.
Like they're like literally just like grooming them to be.
This is awful.
And that's Cobell was originally one of his.
Oh, gosh. I mean, the truth is that
would
Lumen
agree,
is
yeah.
so wicked
Yeah.
that it wouldn't shock me, even though it's sad to think about.
It would be for sure.
Yeah. Gosh.
Way to go, Shimano.
Yeah. So before we end it, we're not going to end on that. We're going to end on the cool villain shot. Although, I mean, she says she's an ally now, but man, when they come up,
really was.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's like some music playing. She's standing in front of a fire.
Yeah, the stance was pretty cool.
It was like that looks like a villain shot, you know?
Yeah.
And it looks like you're about to get a showdown between Mark S., any Mark, who hates Cobell.
Yeah.
I mean, the other Mark hates her too, but I just want to know. This is the part where it's like, oh, we got to wait another week to figure out what's going to be said.
Yeah.
You
what
know,
their conversation is going to be like. How is this going to play out? All that kind of stuff.
How is this going to play out?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any like buy or sells that they would like to bring to the table?
I do.
I have one quick one I would like to get rid of.
Get rid of.
Not as thoughtful, but it's actually an over/under. I'm gonna put over/under a year and a half for how long we have to wait for season 3.
Ooh.
I'm going over.
Over.
I'm actually gonna go under. I think it's gonna be next
year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
so popular.
I hope.
Yes.
I hope you're right, Justin.
Yeah.
Like I'm hoping beyond hope, and especially because I feel like I talked about at the very beginning of the episode, the pod. I feel like we're gonna feel a little left out if there isn't a significant amount of answers, and then we also have to wait 2 years.
Yeah.
See, what I don't want is for them to rush it because it's so popular that it ruins what makes it so great. So
yeah,
I don't mind waiting 2 years. I can get over it. Okay, buy or sell in the finale. Okay, everyone who's listening, don't hate me for this. I just feel like buy or sell, Gemma will perish in the finale.
I'm
Which
gonna buy that.
Ooh.
Yeah. We need some stakes here.
That's what I'm saying. I think something bad's gonna happen still.
Yeah.
I'll buy it as well because there is this idea of like he has these 2 women that he's fighting over, and obviously, although his wife is Gemma, Helly's obviously supposed to be like the more like connected character to him during this show's run period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so buy or sell, does that mean buy or sell, he will complete Cold Harbor?
I will buy because I think
I'm actually going to sell that. I think that it's going to be like a culmination of events that lead him to not complete it, but Gemma's still in danger because they're going to try to get back at him for.
Yeah, see, can I be real?
Yeah.
It's not that I want to see Gemma die, because 2 episodes ago, the test subject episode, right?
Yeah.
Which was dark, twisted, like the freakiest episode maybe of this whole show. My heart breaks that Gemma is alive down on the testing floor.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But there is a part of me that's like, I want to know what the heck Cold Harbor is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to see it.
But at what cost?
Finished.
Yeah.
This is a show that shows you, doesn't tell you. It's like they're not going to just say what Cold Harbor is. Like you're going to have to see it.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see it.
Okay.
I think we're going to see it in the finale.
That's good.
Which is sad. Now, I would hope that if she does die, that, gosh, at least Audi, Mark, and Gemma could see each other somehow before it happens, though.
Yeah.
That would be, I think, a good payoff for the audience.
It would be nice.
I got to buy or sell as well.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, buy or sell. We will get some sort of resolution for the goats.
I'm gonna sell
in this finale, season 2 finale.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm selling.
as of right now, season 1 had a brief moment with the goats and then never addressed it again. And then season 2 had a brief moment with the goats and then has never addressed it again.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if sometime in season 3 we get another
Yeah.
maybe a little bit more of a reveal.
That's good.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe the farmers come and help him. And sometime
buy or sell. Farmers come and help.
Yeah,
I'm selling that one.
I'll sell.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll sell too.
Buy or sell. We will get another death from someone else, like not just some random nobody named character, but some sort of established character will die in the finale.
Ooh.
Actually, I'll buy it.
I'll buy it. I'll tell you who I think.
Okay.
On 3 we can say who
Here
we
we
think
go.
it is.
Ooh, I don't know.
Let me count. Let me count.
We can do it, but I don't know
Here
if
we
we're on the same page here.
1, 2, 3.
Milchek.
Ooh, wow. Okay, Justin, you go first.
Yeah.
Milchek?
Yeah, I think.
No, bro.
I think Drummond is going to be holding a grudge.
Yo, that would be awful.
He's a very intimidating dude.
He is. He's got all the keys to the
He's
city.
a big dude too.
And what if a motorcycle ride home just doesn't finish the way it should?
Jeez,
Yeah.
man.
That's all it takes.
All right.
They've shown their willingness to create accidents.
Shamato, you said James.
Yes.
Talk to us.
I mean, I just think that at some point, something has to come to a head with either Helly or Helena or, something along those lines there where
His old age.
something goes out of, something, goes out of place in this moment. Where and he ends up being on the other end of something even potentially old age or
Yeah.
just he's kind of the figurehead of everything terrible that happens to them.
Could his death that you're speculating be purposeful? Like he mentioned his revolving, and was it season 1 in the finale? I think.
Yeah.
To Helena.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is maybe it could be something like maybe after the completion of Cold Harbor, he essentially sacrifices his life to whatever regeneration thing they're doing, and he can try to come back as some in a
younger,
a younger form of some sort.
Yeah, crazy. Okay, all right. Let me think. Buy or sell. Buy or sell. Any other buying or selling, boys?
I think I'm good.
Think you're good?
Yep.
Yeah.
Man, what a ride this has been, huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Whew. We're about done. So, to all of our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. We want to remind you to share this podcast with your friends, subscribe wherever you listen, and also if you have any thoughts on this episode or any of the episodes, send us an email at, I think it's royalgeekpodcast@gmail.com. That sounds right. It's late. I'm tired. I think that's the right email address. So send us an email. And, we'd love to interact with you there. Be sure to come back next week. We're covering the finale. Can't wait to see what happens. Think it's going to be epic. So come on back and enjoy this ride with us. With all that in mind, for my good friends Sandy and Shamato, this is T-Roll saying thank you so much for listening to the Royal Geek Podcast. We will see you next time, you peasants.